The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
This is a prayer I wrote for this occasion, and let us pray. Prayer to be a good person. O God, source of all goodness, do not let this day pass without stirring in us the question, am I a good person? Remind us, Lord, that true goodness is never solitary, but draws us beyond ourselves in love. Save us from self-defined virtue and from using our freedom for lesser things. Help us, believers and seekers alike, to stand together on what is true and enduring, dignity, justice, and the shared ideals that make, from the many, make us one. Teach us to speak simply and truly, not with a flood of words that hide our fears, but with the brave few words that matter most. I was wrong. I forgive you, and I'm listening. Grant us ears to hear, not to argue or defend, but to learn, to understand, and to see one another clearly. Let our lives be a witness that the greatest example we give is not flawlessness, but the humility to admit our faults and the courage to grow from them. Help us remember goodness at last is not what we gain for ourselves or for those who agree with us, but what we give to those who need what we alone can offer. And when night falls, save us from the anxious urge to do just one more thing, to chase one more comfort, to lose ourselves in endless noise. Instead, let our last act be to step outside and lift our eyes to the stars, to look upon the sleeping faces of our children, or to simply speak with you, thanking you for the time we've been giving. And in that stillness, may we take hold of the one virtue that marks all striving for goodness, the quiet determination to rise again in hope. Amen.
The chaplain for today is Father Bobby Pish from St. John the Baptist Catholic Church in Savage, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Hold on.
Hill.
Go for it. Do it again.
Hill.
Oops. All right, try again.
Hill, present.
Hill, present. Kosnick.
Kosnick, present.
Say it again.
Kosnick, present. Ryer.
Ryer, present.
Igo.
Go. Say it again, Spencer.
Igo, present.
Igo, present.
The clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House 94th Session, 2026, 54th Legislative Day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Tuesday, April 7th, 2026.
If there is no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Comparison reports. A copy of this order of business is online. If there is no objection, the motions will prevail. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail and the substitutions will be made. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business is on your desk and online. If there is no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House File.
Second reading, House File number 3295.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 3532.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 3593.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 3875.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 3883.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 3917.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 4242.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 4348.
Second
Second
reading.
reading, House File number 4356.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File number 4455.
Second reading.
And second reading, House File number 4492.
Second reading. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading, Senate File number 3887.
Second reading.
Second reading, Senate File number 3832.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction of first reading of House Files 4868 through 4933.
First reading House files 4868 through 4933. Messages from the Senate.
A message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I have the honor to inform the House that the Senate is ready to meet with the House in joint convention at 6:45 p.m. Tuesday, April 28, 2026, to receive the message of the Honorable Tim Walz, Governor of the State of Minnesota, which will be delivered at 7 o'clock p.m. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodern, Secretary of the Senate. Message from the Senate. Madam Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate files herewith transmitted. Senate file numbers 1251, 3769, and 3868. The message is signed Thomas S. Bodern, Secretary of the Senate.
First reading of Senate files.
First reading of Senate file number 1251, an act relating to game and fish. Heinzman moved that Senate file number 1251 and House file number 1531, now on the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison. Hearing no objection.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
First reading, Senate File Number 3769, an act relating to health care. The bill is being referred to the Committee on Health, Finance, and Policy. First reading, Senate File Number 3868, an act relating to commerce. Cagle moved that Senate File Number 3868 and House File Number 3642, now on the General Register, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Report from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Long from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration, pursuant to Rules 1.21 and 3.33, designates the following bills to be placed on the calendar for the day for Monday, April 13th, 2026, and establishes a pre-filing requirement for amendments offered to the following bills. House File Numbers 3437, 3479, and 4118, Senate File Number 2511, and House File Number 4241, 3699, 3467, and 3544. What's the first one? Okay, yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Calendar for today. The first bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 3602. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File Number 3602, an act relating to real estate, enacting the Uniform Electronic Estate Planning Documents Act.
I recognize the author, Representative Niska, who will explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Senate File 3602 is a joint effort between the Bar Association and the Uniform Law Commission, and supported by the Minnesota State Bar Association and Minnesota's Uniform Law Commissioners. It's a bill that builds on a law that Minnesota passed 2 years ago. The chief House author was Representative Feist, allowing people to sign wills electronically, and I appreciate that Representative Feist is also a co-author with me on this bill, which expands that electronic signing ability not only to wills, but to other estate planning documents. Over the last 25 years, Minnesota has adopted several statutes that allow for electronic signatures, the Remote Online Notarization, the Uniform Transactions Act, the Real Property Electronic Recording Act, and the Electronic Wills Act that I mentioned. In 2026, we're ready to expand that to other estate planning documents other than wills. So an estate plan typically will include documents like a healthcare directive and powers of attorney documents that also need to be signed. And Minnesota doesn't have an explicit prohibition on electronic signatures. We just have a gray area, and the problem that creates is that Minnesotans who have an electronically signed power of attorney or an electronically signed healthcare directive don't know for sure that that will be recognized by a bank or a hospital or someone else who receives that. So this bill carefully takes care of closing that problem. It will also be useful for Minnesotans who are unable to visit an attorney's office because they're hospitalized or homebound. It's helpful for Minnesotans in rural areas who might otherwise have to drive a long distance to visit an attorney to sign these documents in person. We've had a thorough hearing on this bill in the Judiciary Committee, and I believe the Bar and the Uniform Law Commissioners have done careful and thoughtful work on this bill. I urge members to support it.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill a third reading.
Third reading, Senate File Number 3602.
Third reading. Further discussion to the bill? I recognize Representative Feist.
Yep. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just rise to support this bill. As mentioned, it was described pretty thoroughly, but I just wanted to share that in the weekend before we heard the bill in Judiciary, I happened to go to a friend's house because she had a mother who was unable to leave her home and needed to have a power of attorney document notarized. And so I had to go with my notary stamp and to help notarize that document. And the process laid out in Representative Niska's bill provides even more protections for that notarization process when it's done electronically. So it's just going to be really helpful to people who can't get around to make sure that they can execute things like power of attorney. So just strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Any further discussion to the bill? Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Thank you, Representative Feist, for sharing that story both in judiciary and here. I think this is a good bill. It's going to help Minnesotans. It's going to help make estate planning more accessible, more affordable. It's a good step forward here in 2026. We can allow these electronic signatures for this. It's carefully done, and I urge members to support.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Hill.
Hill, second votes yes.
One more time.
Hill votes yes.
Hill votes aye. Igo.
I go aye.
Igo votes aye. Kosnick.
Yes. Cosmic yes.
Kosnick votes aye. Ryer.
Ryer votes aye.
Ryer votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 134 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title is agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is House File 3516, House File 3516. The clerk will report the bill.
House File Number 3516, an act relating to health professions, modifying dentistry profession licensure.
I recognize the member from Rock, Representative Schomacker, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is the Board of Dentistry policy bill. It's largely housekeeping. The first portion changes School of Dentistry to Dental Education Program, conforming with national language. Dental therapists get included under the guest licensure program. It allows retired dentists to continue practicing for patients who don't have health coverage and an annual gross family income of 200% of the federal poverty guideline or less. It increases the number of dental hygienists that a dentist can collaborate with from 4 to 8 and has other housekeeping provisions. This bill will create greater access to dental services, and I ask for your support.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3516.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Dakota, Representative Bierman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Got to get this mic fixed over here. Members, Rep. Schomacker has worked tirelessly on this bill all session. I really appreciate his work and tenacity at it. He has come up with a well-crafted, finely tuned bill, and I recommend we give this, his legacy bill, the green board that it deserves. Thank you very much.
Further discussion to the bill. I recognize the author, Representative Schomacker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Representative Bierman. This bill, as he said, is just like myself, well-crafted and finely honed. Please vote green.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Hill.
Hill votes yes.
Hill votes aye. Igo.
I go aye.
Igo votes aye. Kosnick.
Kosnick.
Kosnick votes aye.
Kosnick votes aye. Ryer.
Oh, you got to do it again, Les.
Ryer votes aye.
Ryer votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 134 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title is agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is House File 3528. The clerk will report the bill.
House File Number 3528, an act relating to barbers, modifying provisions relating to the Board of Barber Examiners.
I recognize the member from Waseca, the author, Representative Sexton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, House File 3528 is a very straightforward technical bill that will support and promote the barbering career field. It incorporates the recommendations of a 2021 OLA report. And according to Barber Board Chair Brent Grabinski, it will basically reduce the onerous regulatory burdens that have crept into this career field and seeking to basically enter the career field. It'll make it much easier for them. In summary, it eliminates the requirement for another 500 hours of training after failing a portion of the test. It allows the examinee who failed one of 2 portions of the test to come back and take that portion over again, as long as they do it within a year. It provides the board more flexibility to schedule additional testing. It repeals 10 rules that were duplicative and, quite frankly, contradictory. And it clearly states that hair removal through the waxing process is not barbering. Bet you didn't know that. It adjusts fees to align with the examinations, but overall, the fees charged to the barbers are $205 before the bill, still $205 after the bill once you add everything up. There is a fiscal note. It's all of less than $1,000. Quite frankly, if you read the fine print, it's $850 each year. So it should be an easy yes bill. I ask for your support. Thank you.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3528.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize a member from Ramsey, Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I've had an opportunity to look at this bill and visit with Representative Sexton, and I appreciate your work on this, and apparently it's a lot easier for me to get a hair appointment. So I encourage a green vote.
I recognize the member from Carver, Representative Nash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This was a bill that came out positively from State Government Finance. It was well agreed to, and I would point out that it is Representative Sexton's very first bill here on the floor, so vote accordingly. But no, it's a good bill and deserves our support. And if I say anything bad about it, my barber who owns the Capitol Barbers might just take a piece of my ear off. So vote green.
I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Cleavorn.
Thank you. And thank you, Representative Sexton, for your work on this pretty technical bill. But I do rise in support of the bill. The bill serves Minnesotans working in the field of barbering. As you stated, it does remove the hurdles to participation, so that's a really good thing. But it also recognizes the crossover training that occurs between cosmetologists and barbers and gives those cosmetologists credit for the work that they do in their field as well. It clarifies the definitions for straight razor and waxing, but as Representative Sexton said, it does repeal a great deal of outdated dates, grading, failure, and other barbering registration requirements, and it allows for more active participation for the workforce. So members, I encourage a green vote. Thank you.
I recognize the bill author, Representative Sexton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. thank you, Co-Chair Cleaver and Co-Chair Nash for helping get it through state government, as well as Co-Chair Torkelson, Co-Chair Frazier. We got it through Ways and Means pretty quick, so thanks very much. Vote green. Thank you, members.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Hill.
Hill votes aye.
Hill votes aye. Igo.
I go aye.
Igo votes aye. Kosnick.
Aye.
Kosnick votes aye. Ryer.
Ryer votes aye.
Ryer votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 134 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title is agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is House File 3718. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3718, an act relating to animals, modifying provisions related to the practice of veterinary medicine and veterinary technology.
There is an amendment at the desk. If there is no objection, we will let the author explain the bill before we act on the amendment. I recognize a member from Pope, Representative Anderson, PH, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. As mentioned, House File 3718 updates the statutes in Chapter 156 pertaining to the practice of veterinary medicine. It's the first major revision to these statutes in about the past 20 years, and it's now more reflective of current technology in the field and a lot of updates, new current practices in the field of veterinary medicine. The bill clarifies professional definitions such as telemedicine, remote supervision, and a teletriage, and establishes standards for drug dispensing and for medical record keeping. And Madam Speaker, we'd like to look at the amendment right now.
Representative Anderson offers the following amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Anderson, PH, moves to amend House File number 3718, the first engrossment. The amendment is coded A2.
I recognize the author of the amendment, Representative Anderson, PH, who will explain the amendment.
Again, thanks, Madam Speaker. This is a technical amendment, and it aligns with Senate language. It was put in over there. And the language that the veterinary board would have a seal to affix when they approve licenses, for example, was inadvertently taken out of an earlier version. And then later on, they found another line or statute that says there was another mention of the state veterinary board having a seal. So what this amendment does, Madam Speaker, is just to verify that the Minnesota Board of Veterinary Medicine has a seal they can use to verify license approval.
Further discussion to the amendment. I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Hansen R.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would urge members to vote yes on the A2 amendment.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of the amendment say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File Number 3718 as amended.
Third reading. Further discussion to the bill. I recognize a member from Dakota, Representative Hansen R.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to make sure we thank Representative Anderson for leading on this bill, the staff at the Minnesota Board of Veterinary Medicine, the testifiers. I think it is a good modernization of the board statutes here, and I would ask for your support for the bill.
Further discussion to the bill. I recognize the bill author, Representative Anderson.
Thanks again, Madam Speaker. If I could mention one key aspect of this bill. Back in 2024, this body authorized a new category of worker in veterinary medicine, and that's a licensed veterinary technician. And as many of you know, we have a shortage of veterinarians, especially in greater Minnesota, and especially in regard to working with large animals, cattle, hogs, horses, things like that. So this language in the bill kind of sets up some framework. It interprets and puts the vet technicians in Minnesota's regulatory framework. It establishes their continuing education requirements and also talks about their defined licensure. So it's a good part of the bill, Madam Speaker. It's going to help relieve some of the shortages in veterinary medicine, and I would encourage members to vote green.
The clerk will take the roll.
Go through.
The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Hill.
Hill votes aye.
Hill votes aye. Igo.
I go aye.
Igo votes aye. Kosnick.
The clerk will call the names of
Kosnick votes aye.
Kosnick votes aye. Ryer.
Ryer votes aye.
Ryer votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 134 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed as amended and its title is agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for today is Senate File 3402. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File Number 3402, an act relating to health, the first engrossment.
I recognize the member from Dakota, Representative Virnig, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The bill before us modifies the definition of medical consultant in the Community Health Board's chapter by expanding those professions who may act as a medical consultant for community health boards. Currently, Minnesota statute requires a community health board to contract with or employ a physician to provide advice and information, authorize medical procedures, and assist in coordinating activities with local medical practitioners or institutions. It expands the definition to include licensed professionals such as a doctor of osteopathic medicine, a physician assistant, advanced practice registered nurse certified to practice as a clinical nurse specialist, or nurse practitioner. This change also aligns with the definition of medical director in withdrawal management programs to permit a wider list of eligible providers. Today, we have more professional licenses that are fully qualified to fit under this classification to help our community health boards. Expanding this definition will help these boards be more efficient and able to serve our communities. I'd like to thank Chair Bierman and Chair Backer for hearing the bill, and I encourage a green vote.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 3402.
Third reading. Discussion to the bill. I recognize the member from Traverse, Representative Backer.
Members, Madam Speaker, this is a good bill because what it does, it allows health boards in our counties and in our communities to find qualified individuals to serve on the board. Because when the board has open spots, it does not serve our communities well. I would ask for a green vote. Thank you, members.
Further discussion to the bill? I recognize the bill author, Representative Virnig.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's fitting that we hear this bill today as it's National Public Health Week. This bill will help our community health boards, and it passed in the Senate 64-2, so please vote green.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Hill.
Go for it. You're going to be on.
Hill votes aye.
Hill votes aye. Kosnick.
No.
Aye.
Kosnick votes aye. Ryer.
Ryer votes aye.
Ryer votes aye. Igo.
I go aye.
Igo votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 134 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title is agreed to. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there is no objection, we will take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. There's a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Olson moves that House File number 3532, now on the General Register, be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
I recognize the member from Martin, Representative Olson. To your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is my motion to re-refer this bill. Fiscal note came back with a little bit of a cost to it, and so as per the way we like to play the game here, I'm hoping to move it from the General Register, which is where it is now, to the Committee on Ways and Means so that we do this in an appropriate fashion. I actually have not spoken to the chairs, but if they don't want to hear it, then we'll just keep it on the General Register. We'll bring it up and vote for it. So I renew the motion.
Discussion to the motion, and I recognize a member from Freeborn, Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would encourage it's whatever Representative Olson says. Thank you.
I recognize Representative Wolgamott.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would Representative Olson yield for a question?
Representative Olson will yield to a question. Representative
Olson,
Wolgamott.
would you please explain what the bill does?
Representative Olson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A bill for an act relating to, that's the wrong one. A bill for an act relating to veterans, modifying eligibility for burial in state veterans cemeteries, amending Minnesota Statute 2025, supplement section 197.236, subdivisions 8 and 9. I hope that answers your question, Representative Wolgamott.
Further discussion to the bill or to the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails.
Olson moves that House File number 3685 be recalled from the Committee on Education Policy and be re-referred to the Committee on Veterans and Military Affairs Division.
I recognize the member from Martin, Representative Olson, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is the one that Chair Bennett would like to concur that I have in fact talked to her about. This is a bill for an act relating to education, establishing a high school diploma for armed forces veterans, proposing coding for new law in Minnesota Statutes, Chapter 127A. I hope that answers any possible questions that Representative Wogemont would have. I've talked to all the chairs in this instance, and they say it's a go.
I recognize the member from Freeborn, Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We'll try this again, and I do encourage a yes vote. Thank you.
Any further discussion to the motion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails.
Reimer moves that House Bill number 4577 be recalled from the Committee on Health, Finance, and Policy and be re-referred to the Veterans and Military Affairs Division.
I recognize the member from Chisago, Representative Reimer. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Please vote yes.
Further discussion to this motion? I recognize the member from Olmsted, Representative Smith.
I'm the second author on this one. So this is about the therapeutic psilocybin bill. We are sending it to, Representative Reimer's here. We're sending it to veterans so it can get a hearing. It's very important for folks who are suffering from PTSD, which is why our veterans want to hear about it.
Any further discussion to the motion? Representative Reimer.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And as Representative Smith mentioned, that is my motion. It's a psilocybin therapeutic program with some specific application to veterans, and looking forward to the conversation in there. Thank you.
Any further discussion to the motion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. The motion prevails. There's a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Niska moves that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that House Law number 4487 be recalled from the Committee on Taxes, be given its second and third readings, and be placed upon its final passage.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This one is my motion, and first I'll request a roll call.
A roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This is a bill that will provide a $1 billion one-time property tax refund or credit to Minnesotans who have suffered from enormous increases in property taxes. Representative Schultz is the chief author, and I'll defer further presentation to Representative Schultz.
I recognize the member from Morrison, Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And this is an opportunity for every member in this body to deliver for Minnesotans and for Minnesota families hardest hit by the state of a growing cost of living across our state. We have an opportunity right now to help 2.7 million property owners in this state by providing one-time property tax relief to the people. And to my friends on the other side of the aisle, it's quite possible that this might be the first time that it's crossing your ears. And it's important to know that there is something in this for every single one of you. This is a huge one-time property tax rebate for 2.7 million property taxpayers. This impacts people in the metro, it impacts people in greater Minnesota, and as we have seen, especially in recent years, members, our property taxes, for a whole host of reasons, have gone up and up and up. In fact, over the last several years, Actually, going back to 2020, property taxes have increased for Minnesotans to the tune of an additional $4 billion. And today, we have the opportunity in this very year to provide that level of rebate back to them. Because of fiscal restraint here in St. Paul, there is a budget surplus that belongs to the people. And every single Minnesotan deserves the relief back in their pocket. As the cost of state government has grown, as we have seen rising costs of goods, Minnesotans need relief. So today, with this opportunity and this motion right now, I'm asking you to vote with me to deliver an average of $1,500 worth of property tax rebates to Minnesotans across the board. There is nothing more important for us to do. And to my friends across the aisle who have sought to stand up for your communities and to do things in response to things like federal immigration enforcement, or to my friends who are still in their hearts trying to deliver in response to civil unrest in 2020, here is an opportunity for you to support your residents. This bill provides a $1,500 on average property tax rebate to every household in this state, including renters. Every single Minnesota property tax payer of a residential style and farms and small businesses have this opportunity to see this property tax rebate to them this year. So that the way that this bill would work, members, is that individuals, after we pass this bill, can apply for a property tax rebate to arrive later this year. If they simply apply by the middle of July, they would see that in only a few weeks later, likely by Labor Day. And for the Minnesotans who don't apply for the rebate, it would be automatically credited to them on their 2027 property taxes. So for each and every one of us, so committed to delivering for affordability for Minnesotans, there is nothing more that we should be doing than delivering this rebate to Minnesotans right now to make life more affordable. With such significant property tax increases, again, I'm not pointing the finger at any one single person, whether it's from the federal level to the local level. I think that we in this room understand the needs that Minnesotans have to make life more affordable. So I invite you to join me in helping. As we look towards the future, we know that property taxes must be addressed for the long term. And yet, with a budget surplus today, we can provide this relief in the short term for Minnesotans as we together work on the long-term solution to property tax increases, which have been so difficult for Minnesota families to face in every corner of this state. I ask for your support on this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Further discussion to the motion? I recognize the member from Hennepin, Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for bringing this bill forward. The issue that's identified by this bill is a real problem in our state. Both the issues of affordability writ large, broadly, and the issues around increases to property tax levies. And all of us talk to a lot of people, and I know that this is something that we hear a lot of in every one of our communities in every corner of this state. And so this is absolutely a critical policy issue facing us as a legislature. It truly is. And, you know, in my time as tax chair, we've taken this issue and this particular policy around providing property tax refunds to property tax payers very seriously. If you look at the 2023 bill, you know, we permanently expanded the homestead credit, you know, property tax refunds. We changed the renter's credit to an income tax credit, which was Representative Coulter's bill, which got much needed critical property tax refunds to a little under 100,000 additional renters who were already eligible but just didn't claim the money because of the difficulty in filing. So that's a structural change, right, to how we do this in our state. We made changes to the homestead credit, as I said. We did, those were permanent and ongoing changes. We increased the homestead market value exclusion. We expanded that. And again, that's a structural change to the way that property taxes are calculated in our state. We also did some one-time property tax refunds. Representative Norris had a targeted property tax refund that was included in the 2023 bill. Representative Lissegard authored a large one-time property tax refund increase. And we also took a number of steps in the 2023 session, because this is a very serious policy issue, to address some of the pressures that exist that drive property taxes up to begin with. Local governments don't have a lot of tools to raise revenue at their disposal. They pretty much have property taxes, and so the expenses that accrue to local governments, including the portion of, you know, running a school that the state doesn't pay for, goes on to property taxes. So in the tax area, specifically, we did some things to address this. We did a permanent increase in local government aid, which hadn't been done in 20 years since Tim Pawlenty balanced the budget on the backs of school kids and local governments by slashing those critical aids that keep property taxes down. We increased county program aid, and this one's very important, and I want to talk a little bit about that, because I know that in the tax committee, Chair Davids had the counties come in one of our first meetings, you know, again, really highlighting the seriousness of this policy issue, the fact that it's something that Democrats and Republicans both understand that we need to take action on. Because what we heard from our counties when they came to talk to us was about the incredible pressures on their budgets. Every kind of county, from the biggest counties like mine to the smallest, and we have 87 of them, of course. So, obviously, many of you represent a number of counties. Every county in our state has been talking to us about the increase in pressures on their budgets. And this is for a number of reasons, right? We can look at, like, the cost of literally everything has gone up, the cost of hiring people has gone up, the cost of building stuff has gone up. Also, critically, in Minnesota, we have a system where we delegate a lot of responsibilities to our counties. They are solely responsible for administering social service programs in Minnesota, for example. They administer the SNAP program. They administer Medicaid. And so one of the things that they came in and talked to us about was the way that the changes at the federal level were going to impact their budgets moving forward. And let's just ground ourselves in what H.R. 1 did. It added $4 trillion to the deficit, for those deficit hawks out there. $4 trillion to the deficit. And it kicks tens of millions of Americans off of their health insurance. both Medicaid recipients, but also it cut ACA tax subsidies for anybody who's participating in the exchange. Their support got cut. It kicked people off of SNAP, critical food support. And the ways that they're doing this is by changing the administrative burden related to administering these programs, particularly SNAP and Medicaid, which again, in Minnesota, because of the system that we have, we delegate that responsibility to counties. And so when we say the cost of administering the SNAP program is doubling this year, surprise, the counties have to absorb that. They talk to us about tens of millions of dollars this year that they are having to come up with out of their property tax levies in order to administer the programs that they are required by us and by federal law to administer, right? Food support to elders, to families living in poverty, to people with disabilities. That's most of who receive SNAP. Kids, elders, people with disabilities. And when you say, oh, we're implementing new work requirements for Medicaid, again, we have a system where all of that work, and you can say one thing, okay, instead of doing reauthorizations for the financial kind of check that they have to do for Medicaid, instead of doing it every 12 months, you have to do it every 6 months. Boom, doubled that line of work with the stroke of a pen. How much support did they send? Did they send money so you can like double your workforce tomorrow in order to administer these changes? No, they did not. The costs of this will continue to unfold for years. That's what our counties told us when Chair Davids had them into the tax committee, was that the costs will be unspooling for years and years, you know? So they have some idea, but they don't know exactly how it's all gonna play out, because conveniently, no rulemaking has been produced for these changes, and it won't be produced until after the election. So the federal government decided to add $4 trillion to the deficit, cut tens of millions of people, kick tens of millions of people off their insurance, kick elders, kids, people with disabilities off of their critical food support. And for what? Why would they do that? Spoiler alert, it was tax cuts for the rich. I know it's a shocker. But like, think about that, okay? So these are direct impacts on us, impacts we will be feeling for the years to come. And it's all related to this because of that unique system of social service delivery that I talked about in the state of Minnesota, where counties are responsible for administering and providing the basic social services under law to the people of Minnesota. And the only way they have to raise money to double that workforce for SNAP financial checks tomorrow, the only resource that they have is the property tax levy. And so that's why when I was chair in 2023, it was so important to me to permanently increase county program aid. And we did that at a level that, you know, hadn't been done. I don't know if it was the single largest increase in county program aid in a year. It very well may have been. We'll have to check. We increased permanently payment in lieu of taxes. Many of your communities benefit from that program, where when there are a lot of public lands, that you receive payment from the state to replace the lost property tax base. And so, you know, we have treated this critical issue with the importance that it deserves, with the rigor that it deserves, with the attention that it deserves. We have heard a number of property tax refund bills when I've had the gavel in committee this year so far already in the previous weeks. We heard House File 4119 from Representative Rayrauer. We've heard a tab key 2475 and 2715, copay reductions. We heard Norris Bill 2315, which is a targeted PTR, targeted property tax refunds. And so that's the one program that we have that is not income dependent, and it really seeks to address those situations where an individual taxpayer's property tax bill goes up more than a certain percentage year over year, and they get a refund based on that. We heard a similar bill from Representative Hewitt, House File 3959, which was again related to that supercharged PTR that I just told you about, which is related to the year-over-year increase. And really importantly, we heard Norris's 3657, which is a property tax task force, and Chair Davids also has a very similar bill. And the reason for this is because in this time when we see all of these pressures on property tax levies that people are paying, when we see this increased pressure coming for county budgets, it's really a good time to take a comprehensive systemic look at our property tax system. And so when we're doing serious policy making together, which we are doing this year, again, I said, you know, Norris's 3657, I don't have the bill number of Chair Davids, but he has basically the same bill. And they're working together to think about how it is, as we're moving forward, that we take an actual, real, rigorous, systemic, serious look at our property tax system. And that is the kind of work. That's the kind of real, hard, in the weeds work that's gonna get us there, that's gonna get us to a place where we have sort of a better picture of how to move forward to decrease some of the pressures that exist on these local levies. And so would Representative Davids yield for a question?
Representative Davids will yield for a question. Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Davids has House File 4487 received a hearing in the Tax Committee.
Representative Davids.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Chair Gomez, I don't believe it has yet.
Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think that's right. Would Representative Davids continue to yield?
Representative Davids will continue to yield. Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Davids, have you heard any bills that increase property tax refunds for Minnesotans during your time having the gavel in Tax Committee this year?
Representative Davids.
I can't remember what I had for supper last night. I don't think we have.
Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Right again, Chair Davids. You got it. So this particular bill has not received a hearing in the Taxes Committee. Not only that, I just read you off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I just read off 7 bills related to property tax refunds that we've heard in the Tax Committee when I had the gavel. 7-0. Not that anybody's keeping track, of course. Madam Speaker, would Representative Schultz yield to a question, please?
Representative Schultz will yield to a question. Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, what's the number of the Senate companion to House File 4887?
Representative.
And where is it, excuse me, and where is it at in the process?
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We know that we're the better body, and I would dare not speak about the other body.
Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Okay, so the reason that Representative Schultz answered the question in that way is because indeed there is no Senate companion to House File 4487. Thus, it is nowhere in the process. So the work that we do here is serious. The work that we do in this body is serious. The work that we come together to do for the people of Minnesota is serious. Public policy is serious. It takes work, it takes time, it takes a long-term commitment over years sometimes, it seems, to get anything done around here, right? And so look at what the years of work have been and from whom. This bill has not received even a hearing in the House Tax Committee, even if it had. As we all know, as we've discussed on this floor previously this session, the House originates all tax bills. It is a prerogative that the House, regardless of who Madam Speaker is at the rostrum where you're standing right now, it is a prerogative that the House has protected as our precious right. I'm not sure how to characterize the strength of our shared commitment to protecting this House prerogative, again, over generations, through speaker after speaker, regardless of the other disagreements that they may have with their colleagues. And so, when Chair Davids was then Minority Lead Davids in 2023, in February, when I was my first year as tax chair, my first few weeks really, February 16th, 2023, he said, quote, "The reason that I have always opposed standalone tax bills, you need an ironclad agreement with the other body. If you send it separately, it's death by 1,000 cuts. The other side will have 1,000,000 amendments. I was a stickler about having no other tax bills except a tax bill, and occasionally a conformity bill when he was chair. You got to be careful in tax committee putting bills on the floor." Madam Speaker, would Representative Schultz yield for a question?
Representative Schultz will yield for a question. Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Schultz, is there a, quote, ironclad agreement with the other body on House File 4487?
Representative Schultz.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just hope that the other body has as ironclad a will to deliver for affordability for every Minnesotan this session. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Representative Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That was a no. I'll just be Representative Schultz's interpreter apparently today on the floor. Happy to serve that function. So what we have in front of us is a bill that has not been heard in the tax committee, that is being brought to the floor outside of the normal order of how we do tax business in this body, as everybody knows, because we've literally talked about it a few weeks ago. If you didn't know then, now you know. A bill that has no Senate companion. On a topic that my friend Chair Davids has not seen fit to devote 1 minute of his hours of time with the gavel to. And so, Madam Speaker, our work here is serious. The issues that are identified in House File 4487 and that Representative Schultz lifted up in his introductory comments are real issues. They are serious issues. They're issues that our constituents are dealing with day in and day out, and they deserve serious treatment by serious policymakers. They do not deserve gimmicks, half-baked ideas, and excuses to get a speech for Facebook. Members, I would urge a no vote.
Further discussion to the motion? Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Across Minnesota today, property taxes bills have been showing up in mailboxes, and homeowners are opening them with a sense of dread. I know I am. They know what they're going to see when they show up. They know it's going up. They know it's going up fast, and it's not stopping. We're seeing increases of 10, 20, 30% year after year. Members, that's not normal. It's not sustainable, and it's no mystery why. Decisions made in this chamber during the DFL trifecta drove billions in new spending and forced costly unfunded mandates on local governments. Governor Walz cut $250 million to special ed, a cost pushed to our schools, to our property taxpayers, mandate after mandate after mandate on local governments, on counties, on cities, on school districts. That's how you get nearly $1 billion in property tax hikes across Minnesota. Minnesotans are the ones paying for it, even though they weren't the ones who caused it. They're paying more and getting less in return. We can give a one-time refund and give Minnesotans real relief right now. Members, let's vote green.
The clerk will take the roll on the motion. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Hill.
Hill votes no.
Hill votes no. Kosnick. Kosnick. Ryer.
You're up.
Ryer votes aye.
Ryer votes aye. West.
West, aye.
West votes aye. Kosnick.
Just say Ryer. Say Madam Speaker, I change my vote.
Kosnick.
Kosnick votes aye.
Kosnick votes aye. Ryer.
Ryer votes no.
Ryer changes from aye to nay.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 67 nays, the motion does not prevail. There's a motion at the desk. The clerk will report the motion.
Niska moves that the rules of the House be so far suspended so that House Bill number 4907 be recalled from the Committee on Transportation, Finance, and Policy, be given its second, third readings, and be placed upon its final passage.
I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska, to your motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. Well, we're still trying to give some Minnesotans some relief. This time is against the car tab fee increases that Minnesotans are seeing. So I request a roll call.
A roll call has been requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And the chief author of this bill is Representative Patty Anderson. I'll defer to her for further presentation of the bill.
I recognize Representative from Washington, Representative Anderson, PE.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. This House file is about making Minnesota more affordable. We've all been getting numerous messages, emails, phone calls, comments on social media about the huge increase in tab fees that's been facing our citizens. Huge. In 2023, the trifecta passed what is now over $1 billion per year in additional transportation taxes. $1 billion. I think it's $1.1 billion for this calendar year. Of that, about $500 million was from a Metro 3/4 cent sales tax. We also had a delivery fee, and we also increased gas taxes. And then finally, what this bill deals with is the huge increase in tab fees on our cars. The 2023 bill raised the registration rate 22%, the percent of value, 22%. And I want to point out that this is a value on the MSRS, the little sticker price that nobody pays. So when you walk in, if you buy a new car and you see that price, that's the value that you're getting paid, that you're paying your tab fees based on, not the value that you actually paid for the car, or if it's a used car, the value that it's actually worth, because that value is significantly lower than what the state of Minnesota is now basing tab fees on. On top of changing the rate, increasing that 22%, the trifecta also lowered the depreciation schedule. So right now, when you buy a car, in year one, again, it's 100% of that little sticker price, again, that no one pays. And then it goes down only by 5% a year. So in year two, it's 95% of that sticker price. I don't know anyone that pays 95% of the sticker price when they buy a car to begin with. And certainly if you're buying a used car, you're not paying what the state of Minnesota thinks that car is worth based on these sticker prices. The average car depreciation, according to the Kelley Blue Book, is about 16% in year one. 16%. Year two, it's 12%. Year three, it's another 11%. Folks, after 3 years, that means that the Blue Book says that your car is only worth 60% of what you paid for it originally. But the state of Minnesota, because of the bill that was passed under the DFL trifecta in 2023, says that your car is worth 90% of that sticker price. And so the combination of the higher rates and the slower depreciation schedule has shot tab prices through the roof for Minnesotans. I'm going to give you just a quick example, and I know there's lots of them out there. This is a new car, a 2026 Chevy Tahoe. 60 grand on that sticker price, which probably means you paid in the 50s for it, mid-50s at best. In Minnesota, your registration, your tab fee would be $956. $956. That is a couple months of car payments on a car. And if you were in North Dakota, 93 bucks. That's all that would cost you. South Dakota, $75. And Wisconsin, our neighbor right next door, 15 miles away, $85. $85 versus $956 here in the state of Minnesota. I recently, there was something out, you probably all saw it on social media, and I talked about where are the Minnesotans that are leaving the state, where are they moving to? And they actually broke it down by county, and so you had counties like Hennepin County, I think they're going to Arizona, and other places people are going to Florida. I live in Washington County on the Wisconsin border. You know where the folks are leaving my community? Where they're going? They're going to St. Croix County. They're going right over the border, about 10 miles from where I live. And they're saving a fortune in taxes, and they're saving, 90% on their tabs. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars on their tabs by moving across the bridge. We cannot afford this anymore. House Republicans came out today. We had a press conference laying out our budget proposal. We call it the North Star comeback because we're the North Star and we absolutely need a change and we need to come back. And a big, big part of that is affordability. Affordability for our residents, affordability for all of our citizens here. So this bill brings tabs back to the levels that were in place pre-2023. And the lost revenue essentially is backfilled by the general fund, which is also in our budget. So no road and bridge funding is lost. We have to do something about affordability, and this is a way that we can do it. So I appreciate and would ask for your support on this. Thank you.
Further discussion of the motion? I recognize Representative Tabke.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you very much, Representative Anderson, for the opportunity to talk about this. As we discussed in committee, this is something that we need to make sure that is understood by everyone, and this is something that Minnesotans absolutely value our public goods, and Minnesotans absolutely value our public infrastructure, and having good roads and bridges that don't fall down is really, really critical to who we are as a state and what we do. We have learned this the hard way, and we all know this here in Minnesota. So it is absolutely right. We're hearing from constituents and from folks about tab fees, but I want to make sure that everyone understands what the breadth of folks are, that what the tab fees that are being paid in the state of Minnesota. And so with this, over 50% of the tab fees that are paid are $30. 50% of the tab fees that are paid in the state of Minnesota are $30. We have one of the lowest tab fee rates for Minnesotans than anybody in the upper Midwest. We have the lowest of anybody in the upper Midwest with a $30 payment by over 50% of Minnesotans. With that as well, the average tab fee that is paid in the state of Minnesota is $197. So it's $197, and we use this. We fund our roads in Minnesota differently. We fund our roads and our bridges differently than other states around us do. Other states have higher gas taxes. Other states have higher wheelage fees. Other states have other things. And as part of what Minnesota has done traditionally and historically is a registration fee to pay for our roads, to pay for our bridges, to make sure that we have good roads. There are one of the biggest things I hear about right now is all the construction that's happening around the state of Minnesota. And so from folks who are, these construction projects are being funded to make our roads better. What's happening on 394 right now, which I don't know if anybody has in West Metro, and it comes from Western Minnesota, that hears about that project. It's a really big project, and it's a really big, expensive project. And so we are making sure that we're able to fund these projects, and that's where these tab fees go, because here in Minnesota, like I said, we value making sure that we have good roads. We learned the hard way that we need to make sure that our bridges are kept up well, and make sure that they're going, because we have had deaths on that, and we want to make sure that we have one of the safest, best roadway systems in the nation. And so with that, we have just also want to point out that Minnesota is has the fourth largest roadway system of any state in the nation. So we have a really large roadway system. It's really expensive to keep these roads up all throughout the state of Minnesota. And so there are needs that we have out there, and this is something that hits the far more expensive vehicles more. People know what they're going to get into when they are doing this, and so that is where we are going to make sure that we are taking care of our roads in the state of Minnesota. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I encourage a no vote on this motion.
I recognize the member from Martin, Representative Olson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. It was only a couple years ago that I stood on this House floor with Democrats in complete control of Minnesota government, and I called this idea of increasing tab fees, increasing registration fees, I called it one of the most crooked things we could ever do to Minnesota automobile owners. We are picking the pockets of Minnesota automobile owners. Our tab fees, our registration fees are some of the highest in the entire nation. If you look at this, we always love to talk about North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin and how they're doing it so much better than we are. But members, California's registration fees are substantially lower than Minnesota's. Illinois is substantially lower than the state of Minnesota's. We must do something. I stood here and I said that it is the most crooked thing that we can do to our automobile owners. And the reason why is because we as Minnesotans don't even know what we're doing when we get to the table to buy our tab fees, to pay that fee. No one goes in there knowing what they're paying for. Because remember, the advertisements that are on the radio say it is this much money, and then really quickly it says plus tax, title, and licensing fees. I could play a game and I could ask a member on the other side of the aisle to yield to a question. I could say, do you know the formula that we are utilizing in order to tax our people? Do you know? You were one of the individuals who voted for it. And I can almost guarantee that no one would have it right. It is that ridiculous what we are asking Minnesotans to pay. Democrats increased registration fees to an exorbitant rate, one that is totally and utterly an unfair ask of the Minnesota taxpayers. We have done this before. In Minnesota's past, we have bought down tab fees. We've said enough is enough. Minnesotans have been squeezed to the breaking point. We must do that here today. And the worst part, members, this is where it really gets crooked. This is a bad bill of goods that we are selling to Minnesotans. If we don't fix this right now, we will pay for it later, and here's why. The vast majority of vehicles that are purchased in this state are financed. So not only are we asking the hardworking taxpayer in the state of Minnesota to pay a tax, a title, and a licensing fee, but we're also asking them to pay interest on that. Shame on us if we don't do something here today to alleviate the burden on the Minnesota taxpayer. Members, it is urgent. It is past time. It is 3 years past time that we do something about this. Today's the day. Vote yes.
Any further discussion on the motion? Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, over the last few months, Minnesotans have started renewing their tabs, and one issue has come up over and over and over again for all of us with our constituents, in the media. It doesn't matter where you go in the state. People are saying the same thing. Why are our car tabs so expensive? One local news story featured a driver who asked the newscaster, "The car depreciates, but the tax goes up? Really? Is that the way it's supposed to work?" Apparently, unlike what Representative Tapfee said, this driver didn't realize that the car tabs were going to be so expensive. For many Minnesotans, those renewals are hundreds of dollars more, and they matter more than ever now because Minnesotans are being squeezed every direction they look. Higher grocery bills, higher energy costs, higher property taxes. We tried to give relief for that, but we weren't able to do that today. We should be able to give some relief for this one. Families are being stretched every single dollar, and this didn't happen by accident. We just heard the discussion across the aisle defending what Democrats did during the trifecta. They raised taxes by more than $10 billion, pulling thousands of dollars out of family budgets. One of the ways they did it was this, by raising car tab fees. So now, at a time when everything costs more, families are paying more just to renew the cars that they already bought years ago. So what can we do in this body? We hear a lot of talk here about things that are outside of our control. This is something we can control. We can control this. We've heard a lot of talk about car tab fees this session. Now is a time for action. This is a chance to fix this for Minnesotans, a chance to admit that 2023 went too far, a chance to make Minnesota a little bit more affordable for every Minnesotan. That's what this bill does. It lowers car tab fees, it puts real money back into family budgets. It's simple, it's practical. Minnesotans are asking for this. Members, please vote yes.
The clerk will take the roll. The clerk will call the names of the members participating remotely.
Hill.
Go. Hill votes no.
Hill votes no. Kosnick.
Here you go, Kaz.
Kosnick.
Aye.
One more time.
Kosnick, aye.
Kosnick votes aye. Ryer.
Ryer votes no.
Ryer votes no. West.
West, aye.
West votes aye.
The clerk will close the roll. There being 67 ayes and 67 nays, the motion does not prevail. Announcements. I recognize the member from Anoka, Representative Niska.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 p.m. Monday, April 13th, 2026.
Representative Niska moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 3:30 p.m. Monday, April 13th, 2026. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Representative Niska.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Niska moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion prevails and the House stands adjourned until 3:30 p.m. Monday, April 13th, 2026.